What if everything that you thought was truth was a lie, and everything was not as it seems to be? What if everything that you knew about the pyramids turns out to be a grain of sand in the vast desert of knowledge? What if there was a unifying matrix to the universe where the keys unlock the code?
At the turn of the last century, Nikola Tesla, the great inventor who gave us alternating current and the Tesla coil, stated,
"Electric power is everywhere present in unlimited quantities. It can drive the world's machinery without the need of coal, oil, gas, or any other fuel. This new power for the driving of the world's machinery will be derived from the energy which operates the universe, the cosmic energy."
Ley lines are the mysterious force of nature known as the electromagnetic fields of the Earth. The rediscovery of ley lines in this century is unveiling the esoteric secrets found in nature and revealing the interconnection of all living things on planet Earth. A ley line is a straight fault line in the Earth's tectonic plates. Through cracks in the Earth's tectonic plates, very powerful magnetic energies are released which have significant effects on all on the planet. Many have claimed to have felt the energies surge up their bodies, and some have claimed that they have blacked out and find themselves inexplicably transported a great distance away from their original location, as the surge was that powerful. Our ancestors have known about ley lines for thousands of years, and every race and culture on the planet have used different descriptive names. The native Indians of the United States used to call ley lines spirit lines, and there is evidence that their shamans used the electromagnetic energy in ley lines to help them to contact their spirits. They designed their medicine wheel on the spirit lines, as they knew that these lines followed a straight, round line. How did they know about these lines and the energies that they give off? The answer, like all the others, was that the sky gods spoke to them. In Europe, the Druids called them mystical lines. In Wales, the fabled home of the dragons, and Far Eastern countries called them dragon lines, as the sky gods flew on and in fire-breathing dragons. The Aboriginal people of Australia called them dream lines. This also interconnects to the esoteric practice of dreamtime meditation. And they claim that this knowledge was passed to them also from the sky gods. Who were or are these mystical worldwide sky gods? The film The Da Vinci Code was based on Rennes-le-Château in France, which is located on a ley line and houses an eclectic array of occult items. In antiquity, Alexander the Great was guided by the great Aristotle to take control of the major dome centers of these intersecting ley lines from dark forces. This, we know, is the reason why he sent Ptolemy to rule Egypt. Cleopatra, who was also the last pharaoh with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony of Rome, was defeated by the Romans, who allegedly destroyed the biggest library in Egypt, the Library of Alexandria. There is strong and deeply hidden historical evidence that suggests that they first removed all selected knowledge of what they deemed to be dangerous to their future plans from the library before burning all other evidence. They do the same today by sweeping censorship and illegally deleting anything that challenges their version of the narrative. The burning of the Library of Alexandria was the catalyst that sent humanity into what we know as the Dark Ages. During these dark medieval times, anyone who had anything of what they deemed the secret knowledge or hermetics of alchemy, astronomy, sciences, healing, or those that could simply read and write, were named as heretics and died a horrible death. Boiled or skinned alive was a favorite method of execution, as food was scarce during this period of extremes of climate change. History tells us of a mini ice age from the 14th to the 19th centuries that caused crops to fail and extremely low temperatures were recorded all year round. This was caused by the natural sunspot cycles of the sun, apparently. This knowledge also debunks the current myth of global warming that is said to be man-made, as clearly there were no machines in the Dark Ages in the version of human history that we are taught at school. Or were they? There is evidence that cannibalism was routinely practiced in many parts of the world by the elites and the royalty, and indeed by some in the general population during this time. The result of this was that the elites and the monks in the monasteries were the only literate and learned people. The 8-sided pyramids of Giza, the original location of Stonehenge, the Notre Dame Cathedral, Solomon's Temple, the Parthenon of Greece, the Oracle of Delphi, Rennes-le-Château, the Ziggurat, the Vatican, D.C. Capitol Building, Mecca, Hagia Sophia, the Aztec Pyramids, the Bermuda Triangle, the Coral Castle, Tesla's lab in Shoreham, all nuclear power plants, military bases and sports stadiums are all located on ley lines. The human body's electronic field and our atoms are surrounded by electrons. We are, in effect, connected to the Earth's electromagnetic fields, and our heart is the battery. Many of our ancient spiritual figures knew this hidden knowledge and meditated and or prayed on ley lines and megalithic centers, which increased their electrical auras, their intellect, and their connection to their higher selves through the activation of the energy centers, or chakras. Could this be in fact what the golden halos depicted on all spiritual figures throughout history represented? Many of our top intellectual minds, such as Tesla, Einstein, and others, have all stated that their ideas, inventions, or formulae came to them in a dream, which is also a deep meditative state of mind. Einstein was very knowledgeable on the physics of the Kabbalah, and Nikola Tesla became very close with Swami Vivekananda. The Swami's teachings helped Tesla realize that his ideas would come to him in eureka moments, and that they were also connected to his close interaction with ley lines, which allowed him to access the fabled archaic Akashic records. Nikola Tesla, who was born during a terrible thunder and lightning storm, used these ley lines to conduct and power his famous tower, which he hoped would give free energy to all humanity. Sadly, he was stopped from doing this by his nemesis J.P. Morgan. Of course, there are dark forces that are and were knowledgeable of these ley lines, including many secret societies. Hitler was deeply interested in the esoteric realms and the occult actions of all objects and places. Hitler worked very closely with Maria Orsich, who was a famous medium and later became the leader of what is known today as the Vril Society. Interconnections to esoteric astronomy are confirmed, as just before the last blood moon on September the 28th, 2015, Pope Francis visited the United States of America. The Pope gave a speech at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., and then visited New York, where his route took him from Times Square up to Cleopatra's Needle in Central Park, and he ended his trip at the Liberty Bell in Pennsylvania. Coincidentally, and here I will state that I do not believe in coincidence, the Pope passed through known important ley line points. Did Pope Francis perhaps have hidden esoteric knowledge? The Swiss laboratory at CERN and the Brookhaven laboratory in New York both sit on ley lines, and both of these laboratories have a hadron collider that directly impacts ley lines negatively and or positively, depending on the frequencies used within the collider. The CERN laboratory was where the World Wide Web Internet we use today was created. And if you look closely at the Large Hadron Collider at CERN, you will notice that it strongly resembles a spider's web. There is also belief based on factual scientific evidence and theory that the CERN facility is a controlled man-made portal or stargate that connects to other universes, using what we name today as quantum physics. Near to CERN sits a large dome with an opening at the top. This is identical to the dome at St. Basilica in Rome, the dome on the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., and the top dome of Nikola Tesla's tower. The laboratory at CERN at its entrance has a large statue of Kali, the fabled Hindu goddess of destruction. I discern that there is a concentrated effort to affect and manipulate the Earth's electromagnetic fields using these technologies, which is clearly seen in the HAARP and other frequency control and mind control technology patents we will discuss in greater detail later in this series. In the famous JFK and Eisenhower speeches, they both warned the public. But sadly, it seems no one was really understood their message, as with all great historical figures, they had wisdoms beyond their time. They refer to this well-coveted group of elites as technocrats for a reason. By controlling or influencing the geoelectrical grid, they, and indeed we, can directly affect the Earth. And they also indirectly, directly, artificially control our thoughts and emotions. But because humanity is electrically connected in all ways to Gaia or Mother Earth, theoretically, we can do the same simply by utilizing the power of the human mind. The solution, it seems, is far from simple. In simply becoming aware by seeking out the deliberately hidden factual knowledge and truths and learning to transmute and manifest with absolute positive thoughts using this esoteric but theoretically scientifically proven electromagnetic energies, we will ultimately unlock the code of the ley lines. We can all change their channels and bring about positive change if we simply choose to silence them, to fine-tune our own created specific radio bands and news desks and play music at specific frequencies, for example 432 Hz. After all, we are all human or light bearers. The third matrix key has now been unlocked, and interconnections to both stargates and related teleportation technologies have now been firmly established with proven scientific theoretical facts. We will revisit this fascinating subject later in the series for a more esoteric and discerning scientific technology-based discussion. I will leave you with a few words of warning.
I appeared before the Congressional Committee, the highest representation of the American people, under subpoena to tell what I knew of activities which I believe might lead to an attempt to set up a fascist dictatorship. The plan as outlined to me was to form an organization of veterans, to use as a bluff, or as a club at least, to intimidate the government and break down our democratic institutions. The upshot of the whole thing was that I was supposed to lead an organization of 500,000 men, which would be able to take over the functions of government. I talked with an investigator for this committee who came to me with a subpoena on Sunday, November 18th. He told me they had unearthed evidence linking my name with several such veteran organizations. As it then seemed to me to be getting serious, I felt it was my duty to tell all I knew of such activities to this committee. My main interest in all this is to preserve our democratic institutions. I want to retain the right to vote, the right to speak freely, and the right to write. If we maintain these basic principles, our democracy is safe. No dictatorship can exist with suffrage, freedom of speech, and press.
You've been watching Unlocking the Code with host Neil Wilson. To connect to Neil or to check out our other shows, head to lifesource.global. And don't forget, hit the like, subscribe and share buttons. This show has been brought to you by Source Light Productions.